Alright, so we're almost at the halfway point. I've knitted up to the row where I'm going to begin my third buttonhole. I said that kind of weird. Sorry. It's okay. We're good. So this is the row where I'm going to begin my third buttonhole, and as always, I just like to put them in just to make sure that I'm actually at the halfway of the button. Alright, so we're just going to be doing the same thing that we've been doing. Our knit stitches, and then we can begin our buttonhole again. So bringing our yarn to the front, slipping a stitch to our right needle, making sure we don't split our yarn here. And we're going to be doing this just like the other times for the number of stitches that we need to make our buttonhole here to get that nice clean braided edge. And this will be my last one. And then we're going to move this stitch back over. Turning our work. Oh. Making sure our yarn is to the back. And now we're going to begin our top edge. So this one, remember, it's in between those first two stitches. And we're simply slipping them over once we've brought our yarn to the front. This is the kind of tricky part, I think, because my yarn always wants to tighten up, which is low-key annoying, but it's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have to do this 2 more times here. This is why I don't like it tightening up, because then it gets hard to put it in between those 2 stitches. So try not to tighten your stitches when you're doing this particular part, because then you end up with this problem, but this is okay. This is what happens in a live demonstration, and no one's perfect. But if you are an experienced knitter and you have any tips, because I'm always up for learning more and improving, and of course I hope everyone else is as well, please drop some tips below so we can further improve our knitting. Alright, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have to do this one more time. And again with the tight stitches. That's alright. Okay, so I was able to get it through, and at this point we are turning our work back over. Remember, we're slipping 1 stitch so that we can take this one and close up our buttonhole, and then obviously making sure our yarn is to the back. We continue our pattern. Just making sure I have the right amount of stitches. So we don't ever want to lose a stitch, especially not with something like this. Oh, and of course, I forgot to mention this before. This is the way that I learned how to do buttonholes. If you know another way to do it and you feel more comfortable doing it that way, you can most certainly do it, whichever way that you know how. This just happens to be the way that I learned how to do buttonholes. So this is like what I'm familiar with, and that's why this is the way that I taught how to do mine. But if you know another way, or another way seems easier to you, you can most certainly do that. And I'm just going to do one more row before putting it through the button so I can see how I'm coming along with my button band. Okay. All right. So here's the first row. Here's the second hole, and there we have a third one. And we're just going to keep continuing on in our pattern until we get to the fourth one. So this will be my fourth buttonhole. I feel like I'm starting to get a little more comfortable with it. Hopefully with the number of buttons that we're doing, you will too. Because this is a little tedious. But I think it looks really good at the end. Alright, then we're just going to slip it over to the other one and turn it over. And of course bring our yarn to the back so we can start adding back our stitches. Alright, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Have to do this one more time. Because remember, it's the number of stitches that you did plus 1. So there I have it. And Turning my work over, making sure my yarn is to the back, slipping off a stitch, and then making sure I don't split my yarn here, closing up my buttonhole, and going right back in to my garter stitch pattern here. And I feel like buttonholes always look really wonky when you've just finished them, but then they end up looking okay once you've done a couple of rows. And also, please don't forget to be nice to yourself. If you need to take a break, please do so, and pick it back up once you feel okay. Obviously not in the middle of doing a buttonhole. You might want to finish it before you take a break. But of course, since we're working completely in all knit stitches for the most part on this one too, you are able to literally put it down, pick it back up, and just keep going and not have to worry about like, oh, like where am I in my pattern? So yeah. And if you find yourself feeling frustrated because you're like, you know, this button thing's really hard, just take a deep breath, put it down and pick it back up later, because I'm like that too. Sometimes when I'm doing something for so long and I end up doing silly little mistakes, I end up getting super frustrated. So it's always good to just put things down, you know, take a breather and pick things back up when you're feeling okay again. Because there's no shame in that. There's no shame in having to take a break. Okay, so here is an update. I'm about to start doing the second to last hole, and then we'll be done with our button band, and then we'll be able to stitch it onto our sweater. This one will also be stitched on the outside, just like the one before. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to message me on any social media.